It is hard to believe that in his mid-90s, Mel Brooks is working on a new television series with Hulu. The series is called History of the World, Part 2. Now, I'm going to assume that because this is a group of Jews that we have all seen History of the World Part 1. If you haven't, you're dead to me. I'm also going to assume that, like me, you have been waiting for over 40 years for Mel Brooks to finally make History of the World Part 2, as that was what was promised to us at the end of the first movie. Even today, I can recall the previews at the end of that movie. Some were more controversial than others. But the scene that we have all been waiting for, the one that I will be crushed if it is not in the reboot, is Jews in Space. Because who among us has not waited to see a giant Magen David-shaped spaceship shooting, it must be said, especially here, entirely fictional Jewish space lasers dancing the hora in outer space? Obviously, I have watched that movie way too many times. Some of you probably have too. I can quote it backwards and forwards. And yet, when I think back to among my favorite moments of History of the World Part 1, the scene that I always think of and remember is the one with Moses and the 10 Commandments. You're all laughing, so I know you can all picture it. It's an absolutely brilliant spoof on the Charlton Heston version of the 10 Commandments with Cecil DeMille. Moshe gets up on the mountain and says, "People of Israel, I present to you these 15, 10 Commandments for all to obey." It is a scene that has entered Jewish cinematic legends forever since. There is, however, one problem, perhaps among many, with that scene, along with nearly every mention of the phrase, the 10 Commandments in English. And that is that Aseret HaDibrot does not mean the 10 Commandments. For it to be the 10 Commandments, what would it have to be in Hebrew? Aseret HaMitzvot. It's not. Ergo, what is a Dibrah? We know that a davar is a thing or a word. Sometimes it's translated as an utterance. So what we really have here are not 10 commandments, but 10 moments of speaking, which I think this morning opens up a door to create new understandings about what these 10 speakings are really all about. What makes them important and what makes them different. First, I think it's important to point out that these are called Dibrot because these are the 10 instances when God, Brah, speaks to the children of Israel, and that is significant. We know from the Torah that God doesn't usually talk to the Jewish people directly. What is the most common verse that we say in the Torah over and over again? Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. God spoke to Moses, and sometimes Aaron gets added on too, and said thus. Moses then recalls the other 603 commandments directly to the Jewish people third hand. Only in these cases, these 10 cases, God said them regularly, giving them an additional sense of importance. That may be why they are called Dibrot and not mitzvot. However, if we look a little more closely, I would like to suggest that there is another possibility about the meaning contained in the use of the word Dibrot rather than the word mitzvot in this context. And for that, I want to look at the work of a brilliant scholar. His name was Dr. Max Kadushin, and his book, The Rabbinic Mind. Dr. Kadushin introduces what he calls, quote, value concepts in Judaism. A value concept is an overarching big idea or phrase through which we as Jews convey our most central values. Take, for example, this value concept that is not in the 10 Commandments or the 10 Speakings. the phrase B'Tselem Elohim. B'Tselem Elohim are two words that means in the image of God. Yet contained within that expression, B'Tselem Elohim, are lessons about human dignity, respect for people that are different, so many other pieces that come to mind when we say that buzzword, that value concept, B'Tselem Elohim. I believe that when it comes to the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 utterances, I think it's actually pretty much the same thing. It's not only God who is Dibrah, God who speaks in the 10 Commandments. It's we, the Jewish people, who Dibrah. It's we who speak to the world about what our central values are through these 10 central values that we mentioned this morning. Take, for example, Shemor et HaShabbat, keep Shabbat. The Torah contains very few to almost no details about how we are supposed to keep Shabbat. But we all know in this room that Shabbat has been a central tenet of what it means to be Jewish since it was written in the 10 Commandments. Monotheism, Shabbat, honoring parents, honesty, living decently. These are Dibrot. These are the most serious value concepts, the big ideas of Judaism that we have contributed to the world. Which brings me now back to our beginning, how I opened this morning, to Mel Brooks and the 15 Commandments. No doubt we have 10 important values that are meaningful Jewish values that Doug read so beautifully this morning. But then in preparation for this sermon, I began to think, what if Moses did have 15 commandments? What if perhaps 5 had accidentally been dropped? What might those others have been? Or let's put it another way. Knowing what we do today about Jews today, if we could add 5 more, what would they be? I'm going to ask you after the Haftorah this morning to share some of your own. But this Shabbat, I want to close briefly by adding 5 commandments that I think are worth us thinking about this Shabbat. Commandment number 1, Shmor et Haguf, guard and be respectful of the human body. This not only applies to healthy boundaries with other people around you, but to fitness and to exercise. In Judaism, we believe that we honor God by returning our bodies in the best possible shape that we found them with, bringing them back. And that is why we must respect our bodies by treating them right. Closely linked to commandment number 12, thou shalt finish services before 12 o'clock. No, I'm only kidding. That's not on the list, although somebody's going to say it. Shmor et hakashrut, keep kosher. I know that we all don't keep strictly kosher or even kosher at all in this room, but Judaism believes that we must be cognizant about what we eat. We shouldn't just shove as much food as possible into our mouths at any given moment. Saying blessings, brachot, is all about gratitude for what we have. And yeah, we live in a world of abundance never known to generations before us. Kashrut speaks to Judaism's desire to create boundaries for ourselves. It also gives us spiritual discipline. Commandment number 13, Oseh ma'aseh breshit. We must go into the world and recognize God in the natural world around us. We spent the better part of the last 2 years indoors, so go take a hike. Don't take a hike, but literally go out and take a hike. As one famous rabbinic story says, go see God's Swiss Alps. Wonder at the marvel of the natural world as God's creation. It's not only going to help you appreciate life, but God's mastery in creating it too. Commandment number 14, Shmor et halashon, guarding our lips from speaking evil of others. When I ask people what the best prayer in the Siddur is, very few of them tell me it's the Shema we read this morning. Almost everybody points to the sage Ben Bagbag's prayer at the end of the Amidah, which goes like this, Elohai nitzor lashoni me'ra, God, stop my lips from deceit, my mouth from spouting lies. This is a really hard one for us to do. But living your life by building up others instead of tearing them down, that is as good as any of the other 10 commandments in my book. And lastly, but not least, Meshaneh et habriot, giving everyone human dignity that they are accorded. You know, according to Jewish tradition, when you see someone who is differently abled, you are supposed to recite the bracha, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Meshaneh et habriot. Thank you, God, for creating us all differently and in a unique way. There is a famous Mishnah we read every year on Rosh Hashanah. It reminds us that it's a miracle, nothing less than a miracle, not a deficiency, that God created us all from the same mold as Adam, and yet we all came out different. That's a miracle. Human diversity is our greatest strength. It is not a weakness. It's a reminder of the words of that great rabbinic sage, Lady Gaga, who once wrote, "I was born this way. God makes no mistakes." May we all use the Aseret HaDibrot and other value concepts derived from our tradition to inspire us, to guide us, to help be the best versions of ourselves and make the world a better place. And I can't wait to hear what commandments you come up with after the Haftorah this morning. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, gang, so I presented 5 new commandments. What would be one that you would add if you could add a new commandment to the 10 commandments? Or I should say 10 speakings or utterances, like I said earlier. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, you. Couldn't be. Then who? So Jennifer, I like that one, which is the mitzvah to have willpower over yourself. I saw a second hand on this side of the room. Yeah, was it Amir was next? Okay. Yeah.
Based on the concept that a lot of religions in the world are based on our religion, thou shalt not seek war.
Amir says, thou shalt not seek war, or seek to do harm. Yeah, I saw a hand here, we'll come back. Yeah, go ahead. Judith. Judith said, thou shalt not spoil your children. Yeah. But I do want to be clear that does not extend to grandparents, right? Grandparents can spoil their children. Yeah. Stephen, go ahead, and then we'll come around. Yeah. Yes, that's a whole other sermon. I've always wondered why Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, treating others as you would want to be treated, is not one of the 10 dibrot, but it is nonetheless what Rabbi Akiva calls the greatest mitzvah in the Torah. Yeah.
Keeping one's mind open for lifelong learning and knowledge and open to new perspectives.
Okay, keeping our minds open to new perspectives. Yeah. To raise your children with a combination of structure and love, spoken by a true psychologist. Well said. Okay, Galina, yeah.
Okay, I will add it. Be joyful when you see other people's success, instead of being jealous. Count your blessing.
Yeah.
It will overcome the jealousy.
So I almost feel like, Galina, you touched on that idea of value concepts that I spoke about earlier. So we have this idea of not being jealous, and extended from that a little bit further is celebrating other people's successes and not wishing their downfall. Oh, yeah, I like that a lot. Great. Other comments? Rav, go ahead. Slavitz, yeah.
I would develop the idea of the hafta of having and developing a relationship with God ongoingly. And just make that a positive command.
loving God ongoingly and developing a relationship with God. Thank you, Rav. Yeah, Bill.
Staying with the concept of the Shema, I think the command Shema Yisrael should be on the list. A lot of times, I think we need to listen more than we talk sometimes.
So Bill pointed out something that I'm not sure he knew he was pointing out, which was at one point these Aseret HaDibrot were in fact part of our morning service, like the Shema was, because they were so important. According to the tradition, the rabbis felt they were so overemphasized, though, that they took them out. So the Shema they left in. Maybe there was a reason for that. Good, yeah. Pip, go ahead. Yes, Pip said, study Torah. That goes without saying. I'll take it. Yeah, a couple more. Danny?
I think there should be one that the present and future should not be judged on the past. So when it comes to like war and conflicts and ethnicities and races not supporting one another, so that when there's going forward, you should support all people, not regardless of what they did to you or your faith or your race in the past, because you can't change the future if you keep living in the past.
I think, Danny, we actually do have a word for that. I think it's called teshuvah, right? It's that we put the past behind us and move forward into the future the best we can. I like that. Okay. Other thoughts before we close? Come on, Bueller. Okay, yeah. Yes. Yes, to look at the positive side of things, not always the negative. Good. I think that's a great note to actually end on. May we all, whatever your commandments are that you live by or your utterances, live by them, keep them close to you, and make the world a better place. Yasher koach for your input. We're now going to